Hello, hello. Welcome to another episode of the Open Gym Podcast. Roberto, how are we doing on this Sunday morning?
We are great. Good morning, good afternoon to you all, wherever and whenever you are listening to our podcast. Eventually, we just want to be you turn us on in the morning on your commute to work and learn a little bit about fitness. That's that's the end goal here.
Absolutely. A little podcast with your cup of Joe.
Yeah, or
Bob, do
your
you have any
your
big
afternoon
plans?
walk
Afternoon walk. That sounds like a good one, too. Bob, any big plans today
plans.
for you?
Uh, Being active outdoors.
Hmm.
Using my functional fitness to play an activity called baseball. Been doing it
Baseball.
since I was 5,
Hmm.
and we're gonna have fun and do it until we don't want to do it anymore.
That's the way to do it.
That's the
Absolutely.
goal. That's the
How's your shoulder
goal.
feel?
Oh, it's like I'm 20. No pain, no nothing. You take
Good.
care of it. I don't overdo it. And I think as you age, whatever you might do physically, you learn how to moderate yourself a lot more from experience. And the same thing's going to happen in the gym from when you're
Yeah.
20 through your 30s, through your 40s. Things may change and you assume you are getting less fit, but in actuality, you are actually learning so much more to make this a extremely long journey. And I think
Longevity is the key.
it goes very unnoticed that
Mhm.
you see someone in their early 30s, their 20s, they're working out 6 days a week and they look physically fit, they're performing, and then you see them only come in 5 and then 4, and nothing really changes so much, maybe the amount of volume they're doing per week, but they also probably have developed a nice balance outside the gym and inside the gym, which is super important. The life
Yeah.
isn't just gym is not life. Gym is not
Right.
life.
Use the gym to improve your life. Yep. I also am partaking in sports today. However, North Carolina, lawn care is a sport, and I'm fucking terrible at it. Uh, Mowing my lawn, taking care of the bushes. Um, yeah, I'm not the greatest at it. So I always joke around with my neighbors that at best, I will be the property that you drive by and don't notice. At worst, man, I'm
Yeah.
just letting that lawn run, letting the bushes take over. I gotta be better on that. So that's what I've been doing this
Well,
Sunday morning is about
well,
three
if
hours out in the yard.
if I'm a criminal and I'm casing apartments in the area, I'm probably not going to rob yours because this guy doesn't take care of his house, and there's probably nothing in there.
This is true.
And,
This is
you know,
true.
we talked about uh, gym being life, and it shouldn't
Mhm.
be. But for us, we kind of took the other route and tried to make the gym as much a part of our life as possible. And Nick and I decided to, along with our third partner, Phil, we opened up a gym together back in God knows how long, 2013.
Is that what it was? Wow.
Yeah,
This is 10
the
years.
idea
10-year
the idea
anniversary.
started in 2012. Yes,
12?
the idea
Yeah.
started late 2012.
Hmm. We were just
I
young
remember
bucks back then.
I had agreed. It was you had brought it up to me and I agreed with you, and then I was going through uh the NYPD examination and I had to make a choice. And I think I picked the right choice. I don't see
Yeah.
myself
Oh,
as a law enforcer. So, uh, not that I
NYPD for the
break
rest of your life.
not that I break the rules. It's just not me.
Yeah, that's incredible to go back. So yeah, I think Bob and I want to go over kind of the process that we went through deciding on opening a gym, the process in which it takes to open our studio, right? We want to be as specific as possible just because that's really the only experience that we have. And hopefully you can draw conclusions in case this is something that you want to do in your end. It may not be a gym, but a business in and of itself is a high endeavor to partake on. So maybe you can learn a little bit and take a little bit of our wisdom and the troubleshooting that we've gone through and kind of add it to your own life if this is something that you want to kind of venture down as well. So, Bob, you and I had discussions. We wanted to open a gym, and we decided we even looked at New York City, right? Did we look at
Oh
spaces in New
man,
York City first?
I remember we went to a seminar on opening a gym with three
That's
NY
right.
City CrossFit gym owners throughout the city.
Hmm.
And after the seminar, we went to a diner and we ordered breakfast. We had our laptops or phones, and we started looking at rents in Manhattan. And they were about $100 a square foot. And it was
Oh
like,
my
all right,
God.
hard pass. Uh, and I think New Rochelle came up because I was pretty familiar with the area. It was in between where you were from, where I was from, in some aspect.
Mhm.
Uh, and it was a college town, and I think my being very familiar with it helped. And
And
the
for
rent
those
we
who aren't
eventually,
familiar with the area, Bob, how far away is New Rochelle from Manhattan?
uh, 20 miles north.
So it's about yeah, it was about a 20 minute,
It's a 30-minute train ride from
30-minute
Grand
train ride.
Central Station.
Hmm. Which is what we did in the beginning, right? We lived in Manhattan for a little bit while we'd searched for places. We borrowed your parents' car to drive around Westchester to look at locations, something a little bit more affordable for us. And we kind of had an idea of what we were doing, but looking back, we had no idea what we
No,
were looking for.
no idea.
We had no idea. We were just trying to compare locations to other gyms that we've been to. Be like, oh, well, that's a nice square footage, or those are some nice high ceilings. That could be a good location. And looking back
And
on it, we had no idea what we were looking at.
no,
No idea.
no. We were
So,
young, we were dumb. And we
mhm,
weren't dumb, we were inexperienced.
inexperienced.
Inexperienced. And I remember
However,
our first time looking at the place above the nail salon, and they asked us to drop weights, and the building
that's all
almost
right.
came down.
We told
And
our
I, re-
realtor we brought a bar and
yeah,
weights with us in his car, and we would bring
yeah,
them into locations to drop the weights to sound test the building.
yeah, we used pillows as drop pads,
That's right.
and 135 pounds from my hip. And those familiar with CrossFit knows that's not a lot of weight nor a lot of distance. And the building shook, and after one repetition, we immediately left. And at that point, our realtors finally understood what we were looking for because we had explained this to them. They're like, "We got a spot," and this was an old wooden building, and it wasn't scary. It was just funny because I knew exactly how it was going to go, and the
Right.
realtors were just so hell bent that this was perfect. And once we dropped the weights and the building shook, they were like, "Oh shit, this is CrossFit."
Yeah.
Okay. And then 2, 3 weeks later, they found us a place. Uh, and that's where we ended up, not too far from where we were in
Right.
580, right? 580 North Ave.
580 North Ave. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, that was the tough part too, right? Like we knew what we wanted to accomplish with the space, and we knew what practices we wanted to partake in inside the unit. Explaining that to a realtor was tough, right? It was 2013, you said 2014, 2013. So
2013 now.
CrossFit
We're in
was
2013.
just kind of
Blowing
getting
up.
big, right? But a lot of people didn't know what it was. So you go in, you're like, hey, we want to start this CrossFit gym. Think about strength and conditioning. There's barbells and stuff. They're like, oh, a gym? Yeah, sure. You're going to bring like machines in. No, there's going to be weights. There's going to be music. And it took a little while to kind of get our real estate agents online with our vision. So that was, and we were 26 at the time, right? Or 20,
Yeah. No, we
25,
were 26. We were,
26. So like,
no,
here's
no.
a 26-year
I,
old.
I might have been 25. I don't
Yeah.
remember.
Yeah. So
Uh,
here's a 25-year-old
yeah.
with 135 pounds in the back of your car and be like, hey, let's drive around Westchester and see where we can drop this weight and make the least amount of noise, and then we'll rent that space out. This real estate agent must have thought we were nuts. But we we found a location, and lucky enough, we met the landowner who was a, we'll say, an extreme sports athlete
Yeah. Yeah.
enthusiast, right? And he heard about what we were doing. He's like, I'm in. This is cool. He was a BMX rider, so he was into like BMX riding. He was into skiing, snowboarding. He thought the idea of CrossFit would be perfect for extreme athletes. So he was willing to take a gamble on us leasing a what is it, 2,000, 2,400 square foot unit from him, end unit
No
from
more.
him.
It was, yeah, no more than 2,500 square feet. Uh,
Yeah.
and I remember because I had put a lot of most of my money was going into the gym.
Oh, yeah.
And I remember in my head, I'm like, if this fails, we have to pay 5 months, 5 years worth of rent, right? That was
Hmm.
like, if you fail, nothing matters. You still have to owe money on the lease. And
Right.
eventually we got a clause in that we would owe uh, 12 grand and I think end a month's rent, something to that extent,
Yeah.
which
Something.
like lowered the anxiety
It gave
of
us an exit
possibly
clause,
failing.
right? Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Which was
Uh,
right. So
and that was
we
the
find this
scariest
unit.
thing.
Right. We find this unit. We talk to the landowner. We get our real estate. Everyone is in the room, right? Our agent's there. We're negotiating rent. We're talking about price per square foot. And all of a sudden, the lease comes through. And we bring this lease into our lawyer's office and we're all looking at it. And all of a sudden, we see 5 years and like $300,000 or something, right? Or 250. And I remember looking at that number. We owe $250,000 if we just sign this right now. And I crap my pants. I just shit myself right there. I was like, oh, I don't know, like what happened? What are we doing? But we signed it, and we just
Yeah,
stayed the course. We were like, in my mind, I had the feeling of just I will this to be successful. Right? We didn't have kids. We were
you don't
young
have a
enough. Like
choice.
we didn't have a choice. We will just will this to be successful, or at least just not fail right off the bat. So we signed the lease, and we took the keys to the unit, and then all of a sudden, all the back end work started to go into place. Right? We had to paint the unit. We had to build a few situations over like water pumps or something that were exposed. This used to be an
Which was
old
great because
pizzeria space.
our landlord took care of all that, and
Yes.
that was within our lease, so that's not something we had to do or pay for, which was nice. Uh, and then all the stuff. I think my vision of a gym was because I was young and inexperienced was I can work out all day. That was,
Right.
probably and honestly, like coming from where we came, I don't think we liked how the corporate structure to swipe the credit card, I'm gonna say.
Right. Yeah.
And there was
I mean, we were
no kind
trainers
of
first.
connection. Yeah,
Yeah.
there was no
We
connection
wanted to be
from
trainers first.
corporation
Hmm.
to the members, and that's what we hated.
Right.
And
Yep.
so I think that's why we got into the business, and I loved working out and still do, but I severely uh, understand the priorities of you, Nick. You own a gym now. I'm a general manager of a gym, and just the priorities of being super fit slash a professional exerciser just kind of often doesn't go hand in hand with some do. There are CrossFit Games athletes who are gym owners. Awesome.
Right.
They have figured it out. Me, I'm like, all right, maybe 90 minutes once a week is where I take an extra time for myself. But more often than not, it's just an hour a day because there's so much to get done, whether
Right.
it's marketing, posting, uh, cleaning up after class, back end work, there's so much other stuff that needs to get done that it's like, you know what? I got my 45 minutes of exercise today. This is my window.
Hmm.
There's more to life than exercising. I need to go out and do it.
Right.
And at 25 to 30, it was fun. It was easy to do. And now it's like, all right, there's more.
Well, right. And I will say, I mean, our third partner Phil really picked up the slack on a lot of the back end work. I'm going to give him credit where credit is due, and he did a great job of doing the stuff that I know personally I did not want to handle, like the setting up internet cable, doing the back end work for membership management, uh, website stuff like that. Like there's so much stuff that goes on behind the scenes, and this is true for all businesses, right? All the back end work shouldn't be visible to the customer. The customer should just come in and have a seamless entry into the gym, seamless experience, enjoy their time, and leave. But in order for that seamlessness to occur, the back end stuff needs to be on point and it needs to be taken care of, accounted for, and managed on a day to day basis. And I think the time management for that stuff, I grossly underestimated right off the bat. And I think Phil did a pretty good job of staying on top of that. I know you did a really good job of staying on top of that. Personally, I know that was a downfall of mine for not staying on top of my end as much as I should have. But that's a learning experience for me, and that's something I had no idea what entailed until we were in the trenches. So that's something. If you're looking into business, don't underestimate the back end work.
Yeah, and there's always something. It's,
Yeah,
uh, a customer might complain that something's up with the website, and it's not something that the three of us could fix right away because we're not in tech. So we have to go through a third party, talk to the
right.
third party, and then have the third party fix it. So it was always having to make another phone call, another phone call. And yeah, Phil did a great job with that.
Yep. So yeah, I mean, to go along our chronological story here, we signed the lease, we got the space, landlord outfitted the way we wanted to be delivered the space to us, and then we came in and started outfitting the space with equipment, correct? Is that where we got our
Yeah.
big purchase from Rogue? It all came in
I,
a big
uh,
freight truck.
I was in a competition in Hartford and trying to talk to FedEx Freight or UPS Freight
Right.
because these guys did not want to do any lifting. And when they realized they had to lift thousands of pounds, they were not happy. And just coordinating that from not the gym with Phil and Nick. And I was pretty sad I missed the drop off of all the weight. And you guys also started putting shit together right away, which was awesome. I remember I missed that. Uh, but yeah, just those small details, and that was fun. Purchasing equipment and was like Christmas morning. And
Right.
at that point, we had the finances ready for it. So it wasn't like we needed this for the business. It's not like we were losing money at that point. So it was just like, yeah, we want this. We want this. This is cool. But there's a lot of things if you're trying to open up a gym that you don't need that look fancy,
Right.
vice versa. Like we didn't start with any rowers, and over time we built it up.
Yeah. So there's a lot of equipment that you think are cool and you've seen in other gyms, and then you realize it all comes down to your programming as a coach and what is necessary and what is not necessary right off the bat. You can narrow that down to be a little bit more financially feasible for you to open the doors, right? You need money coming in right off the bat, and to see where you stand in the community, to see where you stand financially, get the doors open and get members inside. I think is a piece of advice that I would recommend for folks. And that's kind of what I've taken to my new studio down here, but we'll talk about that later. Um, to kind of take the burden off of us financially, we also kept clients in the city. So we had a gym that we owned and ran 20 miles north of the city. We also moved next to the gym in New Rochelle. But we
Yeah, we did.
also, on days that we weren't coaching, so if I coached Monday morning, Tuesday morning, I would be off, right? But instead of sleeping in, I would commute into Manhattan and have one on one clients in the city that I had not gotten rid of or moved up north. So that was a way of kind of giving us a little extra money in our pockets when we weren't coaching, so we could put more money into the gym to kind of recirculate it and reinvest. Do you remember those times? Because you went back down and coached at New York City, right? NYC?
I did I did 2 a days at both places, and I think that was like the burning of the candles on both sides because
Yeah,
I still trained a lot. I don't think
right.
I trained that much in the first 4 to 5 months of opening, but once I
Mhm.
got a handle on my schedule, I still trained a ton. And if I can go back in time, there are two things that I would do differently. And this is nothing against you and Phil,
Mhm.
because we're all friends, and I think going into business with your friends is a great idea, but I don't think it's great for business that we
Right.
all had the same skill set
Mhm.
versus having different skill sets with the same goal in mind. And then that's where not being too familiar with the accounting, the back end stuff, the marketing, where all three of us tried to learn the same thing on the fly versus having having the skills prior. Like we were all good coaches, programmers, trainers, but the business side is I think where we struggled at first.
Oh,
And
yeah.
if I can go into business with two other partners again, I would, if you had more business expertise, yeah, sure. And so that would be something I change.
Mhm.
The second thing I would have, if I had more money, this is more of a timing thing.
Mhm.
I would have invested more money into the business so that we could pay ourselves a salary, and then I would have
Right.
left New York City completely to be 100% there.
Right.
And if you are going to open up a business, and I'm not talking about a side hustle, but if you're going to open up a business, you got to go all in.
Mhm.
You can't be half out the door, half in the door. And that's what I think. I know I was because I still worked at uh, in Manhattan and at our gym. That if I could have just put 100% of the time at in New Rochelle, that it would have grown differently, and I would have been able to manage a full-time income just from being there, thus saving a ton of time versus having to travel shit 40 miles a day to
Right.
and from the city uh,
Right.
to make ends meet at that point.
Yeah. No, I agree 100%. I think that's very good insight, right? Seeing people with different skills, understanding that at 26, we all kind of came from the same background and didn't have expertise in different areas that complemented each other. And we all kind of just were the same peg going into the same hole. That was a deficiency on our end. Um, I will say we are, I think, very lucky in the sense that we left the gym on good terms, right? We hear all these um, we'll say horror stories of like friends that just now don't even talk to each other because of like business going south. And I think we were at the time all on the same page as far as let's do what we can to make this gym profitable. Let's put as many hours in to just make this gym work. And at the end of the day, we just worked our asses off so much that we gassed ourselves out. We didn't have a set schedule. We didn't really work on longevity of the business. We were just trying to make this month as good as the last month and try to make next month a little bit better. And I think the longevity outlook of that kind of compromised the 5 year plan to benefit the 1 year plan, if that makes sense. And
Yeah,
I mean
yeah.
that
I
that all
mean,
comes from experience. All comes from experience. So it's tough. It's a tough, tough thing.
yeah.
I will say Phil
You
did
took
a
a
pretty good job of giving up, not giving up, but like moving his business up north, right? He was one that really attacked personal training
yeah.
in the gym and got clients on off hours away from classes. And I think he did a good job of establishing himself with a business outside of the classes to make money, to make ends meet while the gym was growing. So,
And not have to travel back and forth. I know he
dude, that
did at some
yeah,
point, but he definitely solidified uh, finding a way to just be have one home
mhm,
and get it done.
yeah. So the gym is rolling. Us three are switching up times, coaching, being kind of the front desk person, managing the back end. Um, Things are going well. A couple years down the line, did you look back on that time in a coaching aspect from a coaching to members relationship scenario? Do you have any insight as far as the way you've changed your thought process of being a coach towards the members? Have you changed anything in your general manager role now that you've learned from that time owning and coaching all that time in New Rochelle?
I think forging a community, and this is any type of gym, I mean, even commercial gyms, I feel like if you're a trainer at a commercial gym, that it is great. And I know we had one of our managers back in our corporate days kind of did this, that he he would get all of his clients together and go out and have a drink, once a month or once every 2 months. And as a business owner, if you're, one of the faces there, I think that's important because that's you're building community. And when it comes to, I think, almost any type of business, that people flock more for the social aspect than
Hmm.
what you're like what you're actually getting. Because get don't like in terms of exercising, any program that you are consistent with is going to work. It's why are you consistent? And that's where the community comes in. The more community aspect you are, the more likely people are to show up. Therefore, they're going to get results.
Hmm.
You can go online and follow Muscle Pharma, whatever they're called, and
Right.
it's a good program. But you're going to go to Planet Fitness or wherever and get the job done by yourself, leave, and that sustainability. It might be fun for you, and that's very individualized. I think a lot of people like the gym area, and in our gym, I wish I was more on top of that,
Hmm.
being there. Uh, and in terms of being social, like I do have a point of like, all right, well, where me being drunk in front of people is just like that I find to be extremely unprofessional. So there is a line of like having fun with your community and members, but also still being the the professional almost at
Right.
all times. And that's hard because these people do become your friends, but like there's a point of you are always holding back something. Not
Hmm.
that you have to get drunk to have fun or X, Y, and Z, but I think there is a point of uh, you're still a higher higher up in that regard. You're still a coach at all
Right.
times, even in a friendly barbecue.
Right. I agree with that. Yeah, the professionalism needs to stay there regardless of the event, right? I mean, just taking the example of, hey, if we all go to the bar or a brewery and get a beer, how does it look if you're the gym owner or general manager and you're the one getting sloshed, having 14 beers and walking home? And like, yeah, cool. Everyone's relaxed and having a good time. How do you face your clients on Monday, right? Oh, there's Coach Nick over there. He was tripping over the bench on Saturday night, if you guys remember. Now he's trying to teach us how to clean the jerk. Like that's it's just not what you want people to think of during a professional setting where you're trying to lead them in a class or a skill set or something along those lines. So
Yeah.
just having that weighing on the back of your head, just keeping you know that
And
idea
and
going.
you're probably doing this with any type of business. I think
Right.
there's a barber shop on my corner, and it seemed like they had a big gathering last night. And, I'm sure the owners were there. And I
Hmm.
think the same thing's going to happen. Of like, I don't want this person who's doing X job. I don't think you ever want to see someone completely sloshed out of their mind. Uh,
Right.
it, I think that does change your persona, and that's different amongst your own friends. I think when you do mix business and alcohol, that there is a happy medium that
Right.
you should professionally adhere by, and that you can have one or two drinks, or the point to where you can uh, responsibly handle. And I'm not saying responsibly handle and then drive. I'm just saying responsibly handle and still act professional at all times.
Right. Well, going off of that, I think something that we did in our gym that went pretty well was our holiday parties that we did during
Yep.
the holiday time, right? I mean, we had a pretty diverse age group of folks that came to the gym, which is pretty astounding. I'll pat ourselves on the back for that, right? We had our young crowd that was a little bit more closer to our age, which is something that we would probably normally attract, right? You're going to attract people around your own age group and people going through the same life experiences as you. But we also had an older population as well that enjoyed themselves in our gym. And I thought we did a pretty good job of putting on holiday parties, gathering the community, and making everyone feel pretty comfortable. Um, so I'll give ourselves some kudos for that as well, right? We decorated the squat rack with lights. We had a
Yeah.
good potluck situation going on. We played, I think, a Secret Santa at some point, and we just had a good time. I think we had a really good time there. So I'm going to give ourselves some kudos for creating that community, even if we could have done a little bit of a better stint throughout the year. Um, During the normal occasions that a community would get together, I think we did a pretty good job there. So if you are going to build a gym or start a business that revolves around relationships, just get the folks together and chat it up. People like being
And
around other people.
another thing I would have done differently is probably in the area, because there was a point of us signing our lease probably in late July, August, and us opening in October, November.
Hmm.
We should have ran classes outdoors to build a following. Even if that number was 10, that would have been
Yeah.
10 more people that walked into our door day one. And I don't know if it was more of an imposter syndrome of like,
Hmm.
I don't know how to work out with people outdoors, so I'm not going to do it. I know how to train people CrossFit, and CrossFit's indoors with weights. Uh, and so I think I got more in my head versus like just putting on social media or flyers around the way, like, hey, we're going to meet at the park, and whoever shows up, shows up. And being okay with that disappointment, because you are going to be disappointed somewhere
Right.
along the line. When you open up a business, you're going to have your first person walk in, and it starts with one. It's not going to start with 100. And
Hmm.
I think just setting up ourselves that way would have helped our gym bottom line from day one. Also,
Hmm.
just build excitement. Uh, and I'd say if anywhere you are starting to try a gym, build your own personal brand. Uh, Start immediately, whether you have a brick and mortar or you're about to sign a brick and mortar. Get outside if it's a nice day or you have a nice park to go to, and put signs up. I remember, I think we put flyers in cars, on
Yeah, I think it
cars.
was like
Yeah.
explicitly illegal or something, but we
Yeah.
went around and just threw them on windshields anyway.
Yeah. I mean, why is it illegal? Like, I
I
can't,
don't know.
everyone does it to me, and I've never seen any.
But yeah, I mean, you're right. I mean, there are definitely times where we should have taken advantage of marketing a little bit more seriously, and I think that just comes from experience too, right? We came from the commercial gym where we just sold to meet our sales quota, and we never really like pushed for expansion, I guess, because there was no real benefit to it really. And now we have this gym outfitted that we're excited for, and then we always thought, well, we'll just get the squat rack and then we'll market, or let's just get a few classes going and then we'll market it. In reality, we should have just been doing it in the park. We should have just been driving up buzz from the day that we signed the lease until the day we opened the door. I think you're 100% right on that. We missed an opportunity, but again, learning experience.
Yeah.
It's all what it comes
But
down to.
if I'm going to do it again, we're going to start there.
Yep.
And then, I mean, Nick, you took a break from owning a gym for a while, and then you did it again.
I did. Yeah, part two, the remix. Yeah. Yeah. All right. Yeah. So why don't we switch gears? So after we had left our gym, I was the first one to leave, more so for family reasons. My wife and I, or fiance at the time, um, decided it would be best for our family and future lives to move out of New York State, and move down to North Carolina. And that was tough. That was a very, very tough transition because I just spent years and years building up this business from nothing. And that was my identity, right? I was a gym owner. I had some credibility to it. I wasn't just a personal trainer. And I'll admit, that was a tough transition, after moving down. And my first job in North Carolina was just working at the YMCA for like borderline minimum wage. and I had a really tough time wrapping my head around what I was doing before and what I was doing now, putting on a name tag and almost starting over completely. So that was a tough time mentally. That was a tough time, I guess, emotionally to kind of just go back to that situation. Um, and it took some time. I had the plan of building myself up in a new location, meeting people, networking, and getting myself to a small little studio that I would open up for myself and run as a singular owner and hopefully develop a better work life balance. That was really my end goal. So, but it started doing, minimum wage, wiping machines down, helping people with form, starting a personal training program at a YMCA. Like that's I went from gym ownership back to what I was doing when I was 23, and that was tough. Bob, what about you? There was a transition time for you as well, correct?
Yeah, I mean, COVID was my transition time of
Oh,
just not running class, and then made the decision to move out west. And I was able through COVID to just kind of change the training landscape from in person to a lot of it being online and virtual training, virtual programming. When done correctly, you can get a ton of work done that doesn't need necessarily that one-on-one uh,
mhm,
FaceTime, to where you also develop professionally that, someone who constantly needs a one-on-one is someone who, they're not in tune with their body. So them
mhm,
deadlifting week to week, they just don't know what's going on and they need the cues over and over and over again.
right.
Versus someone who knows how to work out and just needs some cleaning up every now and then.
Mhm,
Uh, and then, yeah, it was kind of like going from the gym ownership to, all right, well, the first thing I do out here is going to be just the regular good old coach again.
right.
And so I ended up joining a gym for 2 months, and then they needed a coach. I enjoyed the community, and I started coaching.
Mhm.
And it was just a transition of like, all right, I'm just a coach in and out, boom. But
Yeah,
I
was
had
it
other
tough
work.
to
I had other work to get done, so it was like, all right, well, I'm coaching a class, and then I'm on my laptop, whether it's back home or still at the gym. So there was that aspect. Like I was never. It wasn't just coach and leave, and I'm done with my day. There was still other stuff to do, so I had a little different experience from you
mhm,
transitioning. Uh, and now over time, I've been promoted to general managing the gym,
mhm,
uh, which I'm taking on a lot of responsibilities that I once had back with owning a gym. A little more so on Instagram, as Instagram's a lot bigger nowadays.
yeah,
And so it's fun without there is a certain level of stress of being a business owner where you just like even when you're trying to sleep, you're still thinking. And
oh, yeah,
I don't have that with being a general manager, which is nice. And if even
mhm,
if you are a business owner of any sort, you do have to find a way to just get it out of your mind so you can physically rest your mind, whether that means taking a vacation where your laptop and your phone are thrown elsewhere and it's out of sight and you can't physically do anything about it.
mhm,
Because I think that was the unhealthy part of owning a gym was I would be in bed at 10 p.m. and forget that I did something and I'd get up and do it.
right,
And I'd be like, I'd panic. I'm like, oh, I fucked up. Like, I forgot to post the workout.
right,
And I think that that kind of stress is not healthy. Also,
no,
understanding that if you forget something, it's going to be okay if you just take care of it in the morning. It's a hard thing to envision,
mhm,
but no one like no one's getting hurt Uh,
Right.
Even if you forget to pay your bill on that specific day, if you call the bank the next morning and just say you made a mistake, which I did before, it was actually Phil's advice. He's like, dude, just call them and they'll probably have the fee taken off. And they did.
Right. Yeah.
Uh, it's going to be okay. And I don't think I ever got to that point with even like with COVID hitting and doing Zoom workouts, and not having perfect Wi-Fi. I was like, these people are gonna hate me. And at the end of the day, it's just some things like there's more to life than stressing over that.
Yeah.
Uh, and if I can go back in time, it would just kind of do my best to find other things to do to calm my nerves from being a an owner of my own business.
Yeah. No, I agree. I mean, have realized I'm fucking terrible at relaxing. I'm so bad at it. I always think about what I could do to enhance the gym or to enhance a particular member's experience, or if I forgot something, or did I leave the lights on? Something ridiculous like that. So ownership comes with so much more stress than just financial, just making sure that everything, all your ducks are in a row. Uh, do you think the skills that you learned
I
while
have
owning a gym?
OCD.
Yeah.
I have OCD with locking the doors. Like I double, triple check them because I'm like, even
That
even
was
as being just a regular coach, I'm like,
yeah.
I can't have anyone break in. Is it locked? I'll ride my bike and then I'll ride my bike a block away and I'll have to
Mhm.
come back. So I'm like, did I? I don't remember. And I'll go back and check. And I'm like, this just isn't healthy.
Yeah.
Except the
No, it
one
happened
time
all
where
the
you're
time.
like, oh, I didn't do it. And so one out of 100 times,
It
it actually comes
solidifies
in
the
handy. Yeah,
behavior. Yeah.
yeah.
I mean, that's awesome. And you have the unique experience of going from ownership to general manager and allowing someone else to take the responsibilities of ownership. Um, you just feel like you can focus a little bit more on the business. Did you feel a credibility kind of for your own endeavors, right? Like when you go into a room and you tell people, well, I own a business, I own a gym, it kind of comes with this little air of, all right, I'm successful enough to own a business and run a business and to kind of drop back down to coach. Um,
Yeah,
was
identity,
that,
man. Identity.
yeah, was that
Uh,
painful for you? And then going back up to general manager kind of
no,
added a little bit more validity or,
no, because I had moved. It was just like, I sold my business in New York, so I had freedom to move, and
mhm,
now I'm coaching, and I would get the question of, well, but I would also explain my background. Like, I've been doing X for this. I owned a gym in New York. I'm coaching here now. And I'd get the question like, "Oh, do you own this place?" I'm like, "No." And I don't think like I don't think my ego took a hit,
mhm,
uh, because it was like not owning a gym was a little bit of there's some stress off my back,
yeah,
and
for sure.
sleeping was hard.
Yeah.
When we owned the gym, whether it was because we ran back and forth from Manhattan to another goddamn county, uh, but the you know 10 minutes before you're going to sleep, you're thinking about all the things that you might have forgot, and it's just not healthy. Like,
Right.
there was no point in those years where I just sat on the couch and did nothing. I got home at 9, 10 p.m.,
Yeah.
showered, eat, bed, and it was on repeat. And, looking back, not, I guess to open up a business, you do got to put in a lot of blood, sweat, and tears.
Right.
But over time, right, we got to find a way to curtail that to a year or two and not 5 to 7 years. And that's a learning curve, whether it's
Yeah.
investing more in the front end to hire that help, to hire a front desk person, to hire an Instagram manager, or finding other ways to, I guess, maybe find those types of people within our community and then just pay them. Uh,
Mhm.
and I think we were also afraid of money, to where I don't think we wanted to pay for help because we thought it would be better for us to figure it out, and not
Yeah,
realizing that while figuring it out, we burned out and didn't really get better at the thing we needed to get done.
right. Yeah,
So
I agree
we
on
ended
that.
up losing twice instead of investing money. I won't say losing money, but and I think that's another out, at least my how I used to look at money was, if I'm paying you to do something, I'm losing it.
Yeah,
Not I'm investing in you so I can go put my time to better use, whether that was with family, whether that was with other stuff in the business. Uh, and that's more of a mindset on how money should be working for you. And I didn't understand that 10 years ago, even 5 years ago.
yeah. No, absolutely. Right? Like if you hire a social media manager and now they can take care of all the back end and make all your social media look great, now you can coach a better class and be fresher for interactions
Yeah.
with those clients. So now the client has a great interaction with you, goes home, pops open their social media, sees a professional looking post. Oh, those are two positive experiences. It may have cost you a little bit of money for that social media experience, but that's great relationship building with the client versus you're tired because you tried to learn social media. Now your interaction with the client is so so. And then they open up their social media and see a post that's probably could have been done in 10 minutes, but it took you 4 hours to learn how to do. So yeah, it's tough.
Yeah.
And again, it just comes down to understanding what investments meant in the long run. And we just were scared of how do we pay ourselves next month? How do we make rent next month? Let's make this succeed for our families. Um, and it was just kind of understanding the business world a little bit. But yeah, I I thought it was a great experience. I actually had an offer down here. I was talking to a buddy of mine who has opened a gym, and we were in talks of partnering up and running the gym together. And I actually backed out of this offer solely based on the idea that I was lucky enough to leave the gym that we built in good standing with you guys, right? With you and Phil. Um, and I took that very much as a benefit to myself. Like I would have just been terribly sick to my stomach if I left not on good terms with you guys. And I took that as just all right. That was luck of the draw. I don't want to risk another friendship going into business with someone else. So I've actually turned down a partnership with someone else starting a gym solely based on the idea that chances are a friendship could get busted from being a partners with someone else. So that was my learning experience. The studio I run now, solely by myself, I can shut it down whenever I want, go on vacation. Time management's a lot better. There's still stressors, right? I still have to make rent, but it's all my time. I can do whatever I need to do, shut the doors, leave whenever I need to. And if something goes wrong, it's all on me. I'll take that all day long. So those are my experiences opening up a second studio. And
Yeah. I mean,
it's small enough where I can just, you know, I'm not stressed about overhead. That was the biggest thing that people told us. Start small,
yeah,
build up.
which is nice. Which
Yeah.
is nice. I think one more piece of advice before we get out of here. This is going on 50 minutes.
Yeah.
Uh, Nothing has to be perfect. And just to kind of go back to that Instagram posts, I think when I create them, it's like, oh, I've seen so many others that they look so good. I have to be as perfect as them. And that can be any aspect of your fitness. There will always be something that is more aesthetically pleasing to your eyes. But when you are, whether it's setting up things in your gym, posting on Instagram, your emails, yeah, I'm sure they can be better, but you are better off getting them done, getting feedback on how to make them better than thinking and waiting and not doing it because you think it's not perfect.
Right.
And so messy action. Uh, you will, you're always going to fail. And that's the good part. It's like learning from your failures, whether it's just everyday life, your regular job. If you're not failing at something, you're probably not trying. And so try, give your input. If it's not good, someone will tell you, and then you can work on changing it and making it better. Uh, and that is the one piece of advice that I would give to myself 10 years ago is this shit's going to be messy. You need to be messy in order to grow and get better.
I agree. Life lessons from Robert Gorvetskian. Put it on a T-shirt. Put it on a patch. I like it, guys. Thank you very much. I know that was kind of all over the place. That was actually the first time Bob and I really talked about owning a business together and going back through the trials and tribulations of what it took to get CrossFit Pop off the ground in the very beginning. So that was fun for us. Hopefully, you guys found a little bit of advice in there. And if you attended a CrossFit Pop class or were a member, we miss you dearly. And hopefully, you still hang out with Phil. Bob, anything else before we head out? Oh, no. Looks like Bob froze. All right. Guys, take care. Have a good one. We will talk to you next week.